Hello, everyone, friends. As always, we're at the Aeronova company office, and today we're having a conversation with the founder and initiator of the crowd investing platform SOLARGROUP, and the founder of projects such as Duyunov Motors, New Generation Airships, and these are far from your only projects. But today, I'd like to talk specifically about these particular topics. Sergey, hello. Thank you very much for agreeing to do this podcast.
The morning starts not with coffee, but with a podcast.
Yes, that's absolutely right. Let's start with you sharing a little bit about your personal journey. How exactly did the initial idea to create an innovative investment platform like SOLARGROUP truly come about? How did it all genuinely begin?
Well, if we're talking about SOLARGROUP, about its fundamental idea and core principles, you could certainly say that the profound idea of bringing people together to collectively invest in large-scale significant projects probably originated a very long time ago, you could even say quite accurately, back in my own childhood. Remember when we were just kids, there was a lot of talk about big influential companies giving things out to people and so on, you know? Back then, I truly started to feel that intense sense of FOMO. I used to think, how is it that I don't live in a time when huge companies are being founded where I could at least be a minority shareholder or owner? But that time has passed, and maybe that was the first thought. Then I kept watching everything, saw lots of stories about successful big companies, which again, I knew nothing about when they were being created and took no part in. And of course, everyone is naturally attracted to the appealing life of a shareholder, the comfortable life of a rentier, when you live not just off your own money, not the money you've personally earned, but rather thanks to the capital you've wisely invested. And you consistently receive dividends from the successful activities of some big, solid, and highly reputable company. So, this intriguing idea first came to me quite a while ago, but unfortunately, there were no suitable tools available back then. And the fundamental idea was, or rather the significant problem was, that a typical affluent investor is someone with a fairly substantial amount of money, possessing significant financial capital. But for me, for everyone around me, and really as it genuinely seemed to me, for most ordinary people, we were just regular folks without any serious or substantial capital at all. People like that aren't interesting to companies from an investor's perspective, so no one was offering them the chance to become investors. And before it was impossible to unite, say, 1 million people or 100,000 people with their small amounts of capital and form a large capital pool without the internet, without modern technology. And so at this intersection, there was this desire to become part of something big. With these new tools now available, the idea came, what if we could unite ordinary people, but in large numbers, each with small amounts of money? Because, for example, if a company needs $1 million in investment, that $1 million could come from one investor, or it could come from 10 investors, each putting in $100,000. But what if someone only possesses a mere $1,000? That is to say, these individuals were effectively excluded from the traditional investment world. No one earning a modest 100,000 rubles could possibly imagine that they could truly become a successful investor. In some large major project, yes, it could have been a coffee shop, a tire service, or something else small. But becoming an investor in a large organization with that amount was practically impossible. But that same $1 million could be raised from 1,000 people, each contributing $1,000. So the point is, this kind of infrastructure needs to be organized because it's still quite a large operational activity. At the very least, it involves informing, presentations, accounting, interacting with people, reporting, and so on. Accordingly, with modern technology and the internet, it's now physically possible to do this, whereas before it was physically impossible. And in 2013, we started to share and test this idea for the first time, and people responded. In other words, people said it was interesting. No one had ever truly approached them with a genuine offer to buy a significant share in a large, potentially very profitable business for only a small amount of money, one that could significantly improve their lives and their future prospects. That was at the very end of the year, 2013. At that particular time, we started financing a significant and important project. We were indeed the very first in all of Russia to formally define and officially recognize the specific term crowd investing, and subsequently to actively start working with it and implementing its principles. Back then, I was personally doing this work for a specific company, contributing my efforts to its development. And after some time, I realized that it was truly necessary to create a platform where anyone could participate from the perspective of a company seeking investment, and the audience could evaluate, yes, no, I want to invest here or there. At that time, crowdfunding platforms were quite popular, where people would donate. That is, people would exchange either for a product or for some kind of recognition or something else, but they did not become co-owners of the company.
Like Kickstarter.
Yes, there were indeed platforms like that in Russia. They still exist even today. Accordingly, the fundamental idea was to invest not just to simply donate for a product, but rather for co-ownership, for the significant potential of future profit, even if it's not entirely guaranteed. Because in any business venture, there is always a certain risk when it comes to guarantees, but at least here there was a real chance. There, from the very start, they told you, no, you will just get the product. One of the most high-profile, truly striking stories was about Oculus. I don't know, probably everyone already knows it, that for the very first prototype, I don't quite remember the founder's last name. So they raised money through donations, through a crowdfunding platform, and people chipped in. The average contribution was $300 or $500. In return, the organizer promised them the Oculus headset. Accordingly, after they did this, Facebook bought them out for a profit thousands of times over. They produced these headsets, handed them out for $300 each, but if people had invested at that moment, they would have had $300,000 each. This is an example of the difference between crowdfunding, where you get the product you supported with your donation, and getting a share in the company, which can skyrocket if it succeeds, which is much more interesting. Well, yes, absolutely. The question is it more interesting for the organizer, for the project itself, if you can do it this way or that way? These are just different offerings, distinct and varied. So we meticulously created our very first company in the year 2013, and at the very end of the period, we successfully launched Activim in 2014. Then there was a platform where we looked at what kind of people were posting, what projects, and so on. We received about 1,500 applications, of which around 100 companies were posted. These were not very large companies, and not all of them received funding. About 38 companies got financed. These were all sorts of small companies. Some were opening a coffee shop, others were buying a floor in a new building. Someone was selling nuts and truly needed essential equipment. In other words, these were various small businesses with budgets of approximately 3, 5, or 10 million Russian rubles. But at the very same time, there was always a clear understanding that there are indeed diamonds. Sometimes they do come along, but they truly need $1 billion or even $10 billion to fully develop. And for that, you need a completely different and robust base to work with, specifically people who can support that. That is why the idea of bringing people together was born in 2013, and it has gradually developed into a platform. Later, it evolved further. I realized that the most interesting, the most captivating aspects, let's say the potentially profitable and highly lucrative ones, are still predominantly the big established companies, because after all, the most desirable and juiciest pieces of the market are invariably the biggest ones. No matter what anyone says, to truly do something genuinely profitable and achieve significant returns still absolutely requires very large and substantial investments. These are typically big enterprises, utilizing solid, proven technologies and so on. That's precisely why we decisively shifted away from the initial idea of creating a large, expansive retail store with many different diverse projects. Instead, we choose a specific project, enter into a partnership with it, create a company, and purposefully finance it. In other words, instead of a few small ones, we focus on one big one. That's roughly how things changed.
No matter how truly good the coffee is or how genuinely high quality the tire service may be, they are still limited in their overall potential.
Yes, it's just that different businesses have different potential, absolutely.
So to sum up, the fundamental and primary idea of this particular platform is to bring people together and allow them to...
Yes, look, the significant value that the platform itself genuinely creates is to give an ordinary person earning $1,000 or $2,000 the valuable opportunity to truly become a successful investor. To become part of a large pool of investors who now have access to tools that simply didn't exist 10 years ago, especially in Russia. In Russia, the word investor was almost like a swear word. Banks, Tinkoff, and various good brokers who started offering these services, as well as exchanges, had a big influence on this, but back then this market simply didn't exist. Ordinary people had no opportunity to become co-owners of large enterprises, that is to say, right from the very beginning and so on. And there were projects that couldn't attract investment through traditional methods. And it was precisely this niche, so to speak, that we entered. This is for people who want to build a significant company, and also for larger companies that find it challenging to secure investments through traditional means, because traditional, established large investors typically don't risk a comfortable good life for the mere chance at a potentially better one. But these particular endeavors are venture projects, and a significantly large number of individuals with small or more modest financial investments can certainly afford to undertake this, since the inherent risk is widely spread out amongst many participants. That's precisely how this significant direction truly came about. This is truly about the unique and valuable opportunity for people to come together, to become an integral part of something big and impactful, and to gain access to remarkable things they simply couldn't reach or experience before.
Actually, I became interested in crowd investing back at the origins of Duyunov and the first project that was implemented. But in fact, it was only recently that I truly felt the full power of crowd investing. After all, when people unite, coming together for a single purpose, they can bring to life absolutely any ideas, even the boldest plans, without the involvement of any major.
Yeah, there's also, I'm not really sure if we can just insert this shot, but there was a significant conference where they presented on who actually holds the capital, meaning the true ownership in Russia. And there was a detailed breakdown by percentage. A fairly substantial share is held by various banks, some by enterprising entrepreneurs, and also by the prominent holders of major assets. But overall, the largest share of money, in percentage terms, is held by ordinary people. The only difference is that it's very dispersed, and there simply weren't any threads connecting an informational message to each of these people. We decided to create it. We decided to go after the biggest share of the money and to create these connections. Those are the people no one ever reached out to. No one ever gave them the opportunity to play. At the very least, to simply start investing, to get involved, to understand, to try. Because before, most people truly thought that there was some expert who knew about investments, perhaps in a bank or somewhere else, and they would completely trust that person, readily ask them questions, and the expert would then handle everything. Then the internet came into being, and with it, total informatization truly arrived, meaning that now absolutely anyone possesses the very same access to any and all information as even the most seasoned expert. It's just that the expert had previously dedicated significant attention to it. I distinctly remember we were attending a conference that was organized by Belgazprom located in Belarus. That event was in 2013. The actual owner of the bank was present there. He personally organized the entire event. At that particular time, it was indeed the fourth largest bank in Belarus. They graciously invited us as a valuable platform, and the owner of the bank then stated the following: "This informatization is truly available to everyone. And why should some expert at the bank be better at deciding where to allocate your money when you have exactly the same information and you can spend more time and go deeper?" And back then, the idea at that bank was, we realized we can't stop this movement, so let's lead it instead. This situation was in Belarus, and as a bank, they understood very clearly that in a fundamental sense, a crowdfunding platform is a kind of direct competition for the bank. People typically deposit money in banks. The bank then becomes the owner of those assets and subsequently invests them at its own discretion. And then a sophisticated platform appears that says, let's do it directly. You can post your innovative projects here, and then potential investors will carefully choose among you. And it will essentially become a dynamic marketplace of projects, a vibrant marketplace of freedom. And in this particular scenario, the traditional bank becomes not so necessary, or even perhaps less relevant. And you would naturally think that banks would be strongly opposed to all of this, but actually the complete opposite happened. Banks, in their wisdom, said, let us organize this entire process. Let us effectively offload some of our significant responsibilities and let people truly make their own informed choices.
I think it was against the significant backdrop of this whole wave that tools started to truly appear, where anyone could easily invest in a company right from their personal smartphone.
Of course. A lot of factors came together there because the availability of the internet changed a lot, and the presence of services and payment systems changed a lot as well. The emergence of phones with these apps, all the chats, it might seem like a small thing, but it's really not. Information spreads so quickly and seriously now, and so many things that used to be impossible are now possible. Previously, whoever had access to information had a strong advantage, but now that advantage is gone. Now everyone is on equal footing.
You mentioned that there were a significant number of projects you carefully considered for funding. How exactly does the project selection process generally work? I know that many people approach you and that you've thoughtfully considered a lot of different potential directions.
Yeah, do you know how it was right at the very beginning? Look, I personally wasn't making the ultimate decision to directly fund anyone myself. Rather, I was primarily deciding whom to prominently feature so that they could potentially get funded by others. There was, it's a really long story. It would be complicated. Let me just explain that. Among the projects that were featured, I sometimes saw real gems. I'd look at them and think, this is some kind of miracle. Why isn't this widespread? Why hasn't it made its way into the world? And that's precisely when the second significant ideological foundation was truly born. The kind of innovative projects I personally find most interesting and compelling to work with. The ones where I clearly see the greatest potential. So what exactly does it look like? After the dissolution of the Soviet Union, there were many truly talented, brilliant individuals left, highly skilled engineers, innovative developers who possessed incredible innovations and groundbreaking ideas in their hands. But these individuals, being outside the established system that had originally raised them, didn't really understand what to do with all that potential. They typically don't like social networks. Usually they're older, serious, and experienced guys with their own dedicated teams. And they, how should I put it? They couldn't actually turn this product, or rather this significant development, into an actual product and build a business around it. Because these people, here's a metaphor I use. You're an Olympic champion, and they tell you, here, live here, here's your food. All your needs are taken care of. Just be the best at running. Just keep on running, and you truly do. Your entire life is completely dedicated to it. You become the absolute best in the whole wide world. And then suddenly, quite unexpectedly, the Olympic Committee tragically falls apart. And now you are still undeniably the very best runner in the entire world, but you genuinely don't know how to work. You don't even have a proper place to live. You did exactly what you were inherently born to do. And now what? But the entire system that made all of this possible is now completely gone. And these dedicated people are left just running like hamsters on a wheel. But who's truly going to pay for their tickets for various competitions, for important forums? So there's this significant disconnect from reality, from something truly beautiful.
Even though he enjoys it and he knows everyone else enjoys it, he has no experience in how to organize it.
And this is definitely the best thing in the world. These are different processes, creating a product, commercializing it, bringing it to market. Because there's a product, the developer made it, and now it needs to go into production. You need a couple of billion, and he's like, okay, developing a product and finding a couple of billion are completely different tasks. Hiring people, finding where all this will be done, and so on. Accordingly, I realized that there were a lot of such people still left in the Soviet Union. I started looking for them, asking where they could possibly be found through TV programs, some books, certain institutes, and some YouTube channels. We would go visit, talk to them, go visit again, and talk again. And here's another significant problem. They're all quite old now, they're elderly individuals, and even with the project we were actively working with, these people will very soon be gone. And with them, this valuable technology will disappear as well. And once again, I genuinely have this feeling of FOMO, a fear of missing out. A large organization spent many years working on something. It became the very best. The whole country worked on it and it became the very best. And simply because there was no money or support for it, it will just disappear. That's it, gone forever, and it will never come back. I've watched programs where they say that if we want to fly to the moon or somewhere else now, we have to go through the whole process all over again because the technologies have been lost. To create some kind of technology, you have to go through the whole process all over again. And that means building institutions again, huge amounts of money. We're talking tens, maybe even 100 years, unbelievable amounts of money. And yet this person could still do it just yesterday. And I have this profound feeling of deep injustice, a strong sense of FOMO, like something truly good, some significant opportunity has potentially been completely missed. It really, truly struck me quite profoundly. So as a direct consequence, we immediately started looking for such exceptional people, and that's precisely how Dmitry Alexandrovich and I ultimately began working together in this endeavor. And so the fascinating story about airships also originates directly from this very important connection and collaboration. I used to laugh all the time. When I was studying at the institute, I was majoring in mathematics and programming, and I really didn't understand why I needed it, except that I started doing work that automated processes. So essentially, I'm working in the very field I studied at the institute. Yes, my major was specifically called Mathematical Support for the Administration of Information Systems, which essentially means automating the various processes of complex information systems, and more broadly, organizing the entire workflow with important investors. This is exactly the automation of processes through an information system, and in essence, that's precisely what the SOLARGROUP Center truly is. The personal accounts, it's a comprehensive system for financial interaction with people. As for the technical projects, I think for most of the guys, the inherent desire to work on something material, something truly tangible, is something that's set by default, a fundamental aspiration. Let's talk this through, just to clarify. Specifically, why airships? Because that decision was made, I don't know, probably 4 years ago. And it was already made within the framework of the existing system. That is, if we talk about how SOLARGROUP was created, it was created when there was nothing, as a union of people. Then, when a significant number of people had already come together, when I truly realized the immense financial potential and the sheer scale of the projects we could genuinely take on, this impressive scale grew gradually and steadily. And then, one particular day, a colleague came to me. I met the chief designer, an academician who had actually built airships in the first Soviet Union, and he was very much in favor of reviving all of this, starting it up again, and so on. I got really quite scared because it was just far too big. Building aircraft, building electric motors is certainly one thing, but this was something else entirely, a completely different challenge altogether. Can you imagine building airplanes like, let's make a Boeing or something? For 3 years we talked, delved into it. He tried to convince me. It took a really long time. I consulted with everyone. Everyone laughed at me. It sounded absurd, like, let's build a tanker.
There must have been something Brussels wouldn't let go.
Gradually, little by little, I slowly started to truly come around to the profound idea that really it was kind of utterly absurd. This is actually the safest, the most incredibly efficient, the cheapest, and the most logically sound thing that has ever existed. Truly the very first thing to conquer the vast skies. And for some reason it doesn't exist now, even though everyone knows it works. Of course, there are a few companies that do it, but they've been doing it historically, and there are some startups trying to get into it. But in Russia, there's nothing at all. And all of this is compounded by what's happening in Russia's aviation industry, where not just in aviation, but also in many other sectors, there is complete disarray. And when people say that soon we might have nothing to fly on, here is a simple solution, cheap, safe, accessible, and it is a fact that it works. There are actually people who can do this. I'm giving a very brief summary now, but it genuinely took me several years to fully understand this, to make the crucial decision that we could indeed handle this financially and that it was also technologically possible. That the dedicated team actually exists, that there are still enough capable people in Russia who have successfully done this before, and it genuinely turned out that they do indeed exist, to make absolutely sure that all of them fully agreed to get involved in this important endeavor again. And so we diligently started this significant work, and only when I truly realized that everything was perfectly in place, there are indeed capable people to do it, there is something substantial to do, everyone clearly knows precisely how to do it, it's genuinely and truly needed, it's quite profitable, it's entirely feasible, no hidden pitfalls, and those that do exist are easily solvable, plus there's a ton of modern stuff available. And that's precisely how the compelling idea of launching a brand new project was revived from within the already well-established large movement that originally began 10 years ago. And again, for me, the reaction of the community to all of this became a decisive argument. We have about 500,000 people. I'm planning to do such a project because you can't just accidentally create this kind of virality. Of course, there are indeed established methods and strategies that can be employed to create virality, but what I truly mean is, on a truly massive global scale, if something is inherently bad or perceived negatively, its impact can be profoundly detrimental and far-reaching. And sometimes you simply just cannot hold back the inevitable growth. It is truly the complete opposite of what you might expect.
Like a snowball, it slowly rolls down on its own.
On the contrary, you absolutely cannot even stop the entire ongoing tournament anymore. And it also very clearly and profoundly turned out that magnificent airships are deeply and intrinsically associated with the cherished dreams of many, many, many people. The vast open sky is something truly and inherently romantic, and specifically these incredible airships appear quite a lot in popular culture, in captivating movies and in fascinating books, but they don't exist. It's very strange. Another important criterion I noticed, I just thought to myself, I'll go to WordStat and see exactly how many people. Why? So a search query. Yeah. So I checked, I went in and looked, and it's about 80,000 to 140,000 people per month who are actively searching for airships in Russia, specifically in the Russian language, just on Yandex, the popular search engine. Globally, you can probably multiply that by 10. That's usually how the statistics go. But if someone is Googling about a plane or a car, it's clear that they want to buy a car or a plane. The question is, what are these 100,000 people Googling in terms of the airship? There is interest, a desire, yes, generally in the technology, the vehicle, in this product.
And considering that they haven't truly existed for the last 100 years, it certainly creates the impression that there's already a kind of collective intention readily available.
Yes, as if the informational groundwork has been laid, and there is in general an intention. It sounds rather absurd. Everyone truly knows it's incredibly cool, but it simply doesn't exist.
By the way, I often ask a lot of different people about airships, and I usually get two kinds of answers. For some people, it's something from the past, forgotten, considered dangerous, and seen as ineffective.
Everyone realized that it's just not completely needed at all.
And then there's a second significant group of people who genuinely think it's some kind of futuristic fantasy, something you would only ever see in sci-fi movies. And I have to carefully explain that it's actually very much real.
I used to really think the same way about the very first airship, quite. At first, the idea was pitched to me by a guy who built airships. Yes, it took many years. But even so, now I am a truly staunch and unwavering supporter, a true and firm believer that this is indeed really the actual case. Apparently, there's just a huge gap between the cost of testing this hypothesis and what ordinary people can afford. Whether it can truly be tested or not, you need a significant amount of money, and again, several years of time.
But there have actually been attempts.
Yes, and for some reason it just really didn't work out. Some people managed to do it, however, for some reason they didn't take it any further than that. But we personally went to actually fly on those impressive airships ourselves, to truly see for ourselves, to meticulously dig into precisely how much money is genuinely made from it, and so on. Of course, we diligently did all of that, and we ultimately came to the firm conclusion that it's incredibly cool, it's very highly promising, it's entirely doable, it's truly quite awesome.
Sergey, how exactly did the Airship project ultimately end up in your professional portfolio? Is it something truly big, something absolutely fantastic?
Within our community, which funds other projects, I was truly looking for more. I always said that we should continuously keep looking for more projects, more and more, always striving for progress. I was searching, and people just kept coming to me. Completely different people, each with their own distinct proposals, at various stages of development and readiness, and supported by their respective diverse teams. There were some unscrupulous scammers to whom we unfortunately gave our money, and they would just take off right away, disappearing quickly, often with only small amounts. And then one of the dedicated people who worked with Airships came along, and for several years he completely immersed us in this fascinating subject. I kept watching because I have a significant responsibility for what to offer the audience that's joining this important movement. You simply cannot just go anywhere without careful consideration. We made our choice absolutely consciously and seriously, without taking risks, and arrived at the Airship. I was afraid of the scale, that it would be too big a project, like let's build spaceships, what ships? But then the whole puzzle came together. This is in place, that's in place, everything is there. So we presented it to the audience, and that's how this project came about for us.
What exactly are the general criteria that are applied to the projects or the individuals who come forward and are considered for funding assistance?
Yes, look, there are many different initiatives, and they are quite distinct, each with its own unique characteristics. One main crucial factor is their potential and overall profitability. And the second important aspect is what they are fundamentally based on. What exactly generates this profit? Everyone knows there are certain fields where the profits are huge, but they're not very environmentally friendly. I realized that for our diverse audience, we truly need something universally appealing. Since the company is an international organization, we have people from all different cultures and languages. And these companies should effectively address the fundamental needs of ordinary people. So there should be some inherent universality. It should be something truly scientific, some kind of significant development, some kind of advanced technology that effectively solves absolutely universal problems that genuinely exist all over the entire world. Usually these are innovative technologies that have a profoundly positive impact on the world, that actively reduce emissions, reduce energy consumption, so-called green technologies. This is generally a very important trend. But when you work with a large number of diverse people, you quickly realize that they respond most strongly to things that affect them personally and directly. They have this very specific problem. And if we carefully consider the Duyunov Motors project, it's simply and clearly about highly energy efficient electric motors. That is, they can substantially reduce the consumption of those energy sources that are burned to generate power. When these motors are implemented, they are more efficient, cheaper, lighter, use less material, and so on. So yes, it's primarily about profit, but it's also significantly about the ethical and sustainable way we achieve that profit. For us, mainly, I'm saying it's something truly universal for the entire world, something that, as the familiar cliche goes, these innovative green technologies will genuinely make the world a much better place. But apparently that's precisely how it genuinely works, because of its inherent universality. Since our primary and most effective way of raising essential money is directly through the contributions of ordinary, everyday people, and these ordinary people naturally possess genuinely good intentions. They consistently express, I will wholeheartedly support something that truly strives to do good in the world. Makes the world better, something good, rather than going against my conscience. Let's burn down these forests and sell them, or sell them and say they burned down. Well, you know, there are profits there too, ethical ones. Yeah, I think that people are really into that kind of thing. In fact, a large number of people all around the world would actually prefer to clean up and restore burned forests. So these are some innovative green technologies that have a truly positive impact on the world. Technologies that are unique and special, things that others won't just take and repeat tomorrow. These are actually pretty complex and sophisticated things. Again, this helps protect you from a situation where you launch something new today, someone else copies it, and your business quickly goes downhill. There also needs to be a very well-formed team that can actually implement it effectively, a team that has already gone through some significant experience together, is tightly knit, and so on.
Sergey, how is the economic benefit of a particular project generally calculated? Is there a team for this, or is some kind of overall analysis conducted?
Usually someone comes in and makes a proposal. They say, here's a project and you can make this much money from it because of this. And they share their ideas, assumptions, everything is laid out, business plans and so on. We check all of this, look it over, and usually when it comes to airships, it's the same story. There is a significant market for aircraft. In this market, there are certain distinct types of machines, specifically private and commercial aircraft, that are designed to fly certain distances, possess certain payload capacities, and indeed there is a consistent demand for transportation over these various distances with these particular types of cargo at certain speeds and at certain prices. There is a significant price, and this particular market is certainly worth a considerable amount of money. Within this expansive market, there are specific people, innovative companies, and advanced technologies that comprehensively cover this entire market. There's also demand here and there, but these ones can't go there for certain reasons, because there is no infrastructure, and those ones can go there for other reasons. If we were to successfully create a sophisticated machine that effectively meets this significant demand, there is indeed such a pressing need, but currently no truly viable existing solutions. If we meticulously design and construct advanced airships, they would realistically cost approximately this much to develop and produce, and would subsequently earn a substantial amount, roughly this much, when we consider these figures in very broad, overarching terms. And when you look at it, the numbers are absolutely fantastic. Moreover, it comes with a lot of operational specifics. You need to build landing strips, there's enormous potential payload capacity, and so on. And you just go along with it. You check it. You either agree or you don't. Then gradually it gets tested. That's how the potential profitability of all this is calculated. And was there, in the best conclusion, that airships, yes, with airships, it's just something fantastic? Well, let me give you the simplest example. When we went to Germany to fly on airships, again, just one that's very straightforward. In Germany, the Zeppelin company has 3 airships. They're 14-seaters for passengers. 2 of them are constantly flying, meaning they're always in operation. These flights are primarily for tourists, and they offer half-hour, 1 hour, and 1.5-hour scenic flights over the beautiful lakes, over the majestic mountains, in the picturesque area situated between the Swiss and German borders. I said, let's definitely go for a flight. Tickets typically cost from, I think, around 400 euros up to 900 euros. They're all sold out 6 months in advance. In the very end, we successfully bought the tickets. Then Pasha suddenly says, I really want to go with you, so let's quickly buy another ticket for me too. But over the course of 6 months, not a single ticket became available. You can simply add up how much money they make there. There are official statistics on how much they earn. With these 2 airships, they make $150 million a year on just 2 airships, each with 14 seats. The economics are considered very simple, and that's just from passenger flights. Of course, it is Germany, a country very close to Switzerland, and naturally it is the euro that is used, not the ruble. It's quite clear and easily discernible how much it truly costs to produce this magnificent airship, to meticulously maintain it and to efficiently operate it, and how much substantial revenue it simply earns. And that's just one specific area, and an entertainment-focused one at that, meaning it's not fundamentally essential for basic needs, but rather it's primarily satisfying the inherent human need for enjoyment and leisure. But there are many situations in the world where something is necessary and can't be done in any other way except with an airship.
Especially here in Russia.
Yes, when it's actually the largest country by landmass. Many people don't think about it, but if you look at the map, you can see where life and civilization exist in Russia. In my opinion, it's less than 40%. The other 60% were inhabited at some point, but now those areas are undeveloped, uninhabited, and physically inaccessible. If we talk about the market offer that Solar Group is making, it's important to understand the following key points. We operate all over the world. Most of our investments come from many different countries, Africa, Asia, everywhere except America, and they consistently come into Russia. And in Russia, something truly significant is being built, something remarkably cool, something impressively big. Everything is readily available in all major languages, with the convenient ability to make secure payments from any country and reliably receive payouts back to any country. We've meticulously set up a robust, high quality, and incredibly efficient IT system that is perfectly suitable for anyone, much like an advanced online store where you can also actively earn money. Good service with translation into all languages, constant and regular updates, and ongoing public engagement. We're just like a captivating Netflix series, constantly telling you exactly what's happening and precisely how things are progressing, all live in real time. That's why I am not aware of any other platforms or any specific products or even any marketing companies or anything else of that nature that are as universally applicable and readily accessible to anyone and can be utilized in so many diverse and varied professional roles. From simply just watching what's truly going on to carefully deciding, okay, I'll invest a small, perhaps even a tiny amount, maybe $50, to even confidently saying, all right, I'll actively help bring other people in. Yes, and secondly, I will be an active and dedicated supporter, a committed participant in these endeavors, and some individuals even choose to come and work directly with us within the various companies. So it truly is a modern, socially integrated, and financially sound system. In other words, we truly do it together. It's a very significant endeavor, absolutely transparent. Anyone can freely come, see how it's organized, help however you can, observe, and so on. And it's happening all over the world in every language with all the necessary technical infrastructure.
Regarding the significant fact that there are indeed many different projects available on the internet, and surely, well, not just surely, but many of them have unfortunately been scams, and there must have been similar, perhaps even malicious attacks from some vocal haters. And in general, how precisely did you have to deal with that?
Yes, look, of course, all of that has indeed happened, and it still continues to happen, because after all, investment is certainly not something where you are guaranteed to consistently make money. And the line is indeed very, very thin between a person who genuinely intended to make money but ultimately failed, so the investors unfortunately didn't profit as expected, and someone who from the very start deliberately created a project that simply couldn't be realized, spent investors' hard-earned money irresponsibly, essentially stealing it, and never truly intended to deliver anything at all. And again, the investors regrettably didn't get anything back. The final result is, in essence, the same, but there is a crucial nuance that distinguishes these two scenarios. Accordingly, we've been working for more than 10 years. We weren't really compared to anyone because there were a lot of projects popping up that were doing something similar and so on. I don't know who managed to succeed there, but most didn't. It's very hard to separate one from the other. And considering that deadlines get pushed back, amounts change, a lot of things change, people can say, you're just the same. And that's absolutely normal. The crucial question, however, is truly about the underlying intention. Can we succeed with him? Of course we can. Just like in any business endeavor, it might not always work out. Once, I was talking to a business angel who had decided to get serious about investing his capital, and he said, well, where exactly should I invest my resources? Well, the most reliable option is probably investing in real estate. Yeah, that's true. And where are the best laws? Well, probably in America. So you need to invest in America, in real estate. And it's reliable, everything is regulated. It's some prominent company that deals with real estate and significant investments. So it's America, a substantial real estate entity, an official and well-established company, a very large fund. As a direct result, there are a lot of solid guarantees, but the financial returns will naturally be somewhat lower. He said, I just want to preserve my capital stably. Yes, he indeed invested his money there. Consequently, he had no money left at all. I believe this occurred in 2008, right? The Big Short. Yeah, I don't precisely recall the exact period he was referring to, but he explicitly stated, here's my fundamental logic. I simply want to diligently preserve my valuable capital, specifically America, its guarantees and real estate. And in the ultimate conclusion, there's absolutely nothing remaining. And since then, I realized that I will only invest in what I truly care about. There are no other criteria. Because you can lose money even in the most reliable ventures with all the guarantees. And in our own projects, we create the illusion that everything will definitely work out for us. We state clearly that this is a venture project, it's a risky project, it's a startup. This is not the kind of thing where you give a loan secured by something and are guaranteed to get 100% back. And I fully understand for myself deep down that it might not ultimately work out as I hope. Okay, but I am diligently doing absolutely everything within my power to make sure it succeeds. We conduct and share everything transparently and openly with the public and so on. Moreover, the people who invest with us in installments are keeping an eye on what's happening. They can stop at any time and say that something's going wrong. They are not obligated to continue and say, I was going to give you $1,000. I looked. Instead, they might simply say, here, I gave you $50. I observed and you're not behaving well. You're not keeping up the expected pace. Your investment volume isn't sufficient enough. I don't want to continue. I'll limit myself to the risk I've already taken on. And that's all. That is precisely why I believe this approach is considerably more honest and much more transparent.
And actually it is more profitable for the investor because the company, on its part, truly allows them to lock in those favorable terms.
Of course, we have all these inherent mechanisms built in, but the crucial point is that we are simply honest and transparent in our interactions with the wider world. We create an enterprise that can potentially bring in a lot of money. We'll do this, this, and this with these people within these time frames and with these budgets. So there are opportunities to succeed here, here, and here.
By the way, how exactly do you choose or set the deadlines for implementing a particular project, and what key factors do you consider?
Again, when there is a project initiator, they typically tell us all about it, providing comprehensive details. Essentially, they meticulously negotiate with us as with a unified collective investor from the very beginning. So they proactively tell us about it, thoroughly show it, comprehensively present it, and we diligently check and verify it, and so on. Obviously, reality inevitably makes its own unique and often unforeseen adjustments. I think everyone has already fully realized this fundamental truth.
Nevertheless, deadlines are always set and everyone consistently strives to meet them. And if we talk specifically about the new generation Airships project, are there already any preliminary agreements with potential customers, where exactly it will be sold, or which specific companies will ultimately use these innovative airships or their valuable services?
Yes, but it should be carefully noted that it's only been a year since we officially established the company, meaning we only just officially announced that there would indeed be a company and that it would be actively working on this particular endeavor. We have determined the precise types and optimal sizes of the machines we will be making. That is, these are both unmanned and manned vehicles, first of all. Secondly, they are available in small and medium sizes, specifically rigid, semi-rigid, and non-rigid. We have defined what they will be used for. Communication, surveillance, passenger transport, cargo transport, both passenger and purely cargo, piloted and also unmanned aircraft. You don't even have a product yet, but you can already publish its specifications, and interested parties will start coming to you. That's exactly what we did. At that point, we didn't actually have any finished vehicles yet. We just announced that we would be making them. This is the direction we're heading, and if anyone is interested, come to us. Companies started coming to us and asking for details. They'd say, you were planning to make a 2-ton model, but if you make a 3-ton one, we would need this many units. And we thought, what's the difference for us making a 2-ton or a 3-ton model? There's not much of a significant difference. So we started actively gathering comprehensive feedback from the market regarding what exactly people truly needed. Various different companies began coming to us, ranging from smaller private firms to much larger state-owned enterprises. Of course, this prominently included the crucial oil sector. They say that they really need to transport essential cargo for the vital oil industry in remote places where there are absolutely no roads at all. So, for example, they set up a rig somewhere and then you can't get there anymore if everything gets washed out and so on. And you end up waiting there, losing half a year. And you just wait there, losing half a year. Let's say you need to monitor a whole bunch of infrastructure lines, starting from critical power lines and ending with, if we're talking about major oil companies, their extensive pipelines. For private companies, it's the logistics personnel, especially airships, because these vehicles can deliver goods from the place of production directly to the place of use without any reloading. Yes, that's super incredibly important. They can move to places where there are absolutely no roads, where no permits are specifically needed at all. And from all over the entire world, from many different countries, including even Russia, we started receiving these kinds of very specific and unique proposals. For some people, I would say, it all truly started when we prominently showed the Nova 01, and subsequently we started getting numerous advertising orders. And let's also use them for advertising and for delivering small packages. We have specific orders from oil companies and we're working with them. And next year, I'm telling you, you'll see people, the buzz on TV will start. This is coming directly from the client, within their interests and so on. It's step by step by step, and then it starts to really take off. So yes, there are orders. Again, just to be clear, an order doesn't mean we've already handed over the vehicle. It means someone has come to us and said, please make these specific vehicles for us. And then we take all of them and buy them.
Personally, I understand that nowadays, and in crowd investing in general, talking about guarantees would be somewhat disingenuous. Still, do companies provide any kind of guarantees for participants, partners, or investors from their side?
This is simply how we formalize everything. We record the amount of money we provide to you under this agreement, and all of this is documented both in the IT system and in paper form for you. The guarantee is that we create a great product, one that is in demand on the market and has the right features. I would focus more on that, because there's this joke. A businessman comes to his lawyer and says, listen, I have a deal coming up. They've prepared the documents. Check if they're trying to trick us. And the lawyer says, listen, if they're trying to trick us, then the documents are definitely in order. Well, what documents can truly help if someone has deliberately decided to deceive you? Say, for instance, you put your money in a bank, the bank then closes, you even have government guarantees. But what can you really do if it wasn't an accident? And from the start, we say that we're a venture project. Things might not work out for us, but look at how we operate. Look at the team we're working with. Come and talk to these people. I would pay more attention to people's intentions, to the team's ability to deliver, to common sense, to the very idea, what we're doing and why.
Plus, as of today, Solar Group already has an almost fully completed project under its belt. This isn't an activity starting from scratch. There's already a nearly finished project, and you can clearly see the tangible real-world results, not just something existing on paper.
Yes, there are always different and inherent risks in any investment. There is the risk of outright fraud. There are technical risks involved, the risk of a flawed idea, and various external risks. There are risks in absolutely any investment project. Yes, the crucial question is, what is the background? How effectively did they handle difficulties and challenges and so on?
That's why you can look at previous activities here. Sergey, is it possible to single out any main feature in building trusting relationships with clients and partners who participate in the project?
Probably the fact that we've been working for 10 years and have never failed to meet our obligations to our partners. Everything works as it should. Probably the fact that we are absolutely open, both to partners and investors and to the outside world in general. We film everything that happens and regularly release news updates. We regularly hold conferences where we invite people to come and see what we've accomplished, and the fact that we ourselves are physically accessible. Our office is open, flights are accessible. In other words, we don't shut ourselves off. We'll come back to you in a year and tell you more. I consider this a major advantage.
Sergey, could you share how the company as a whole overcame the challenges it faced, such as COVID, for example? After all, many businesses were hit hard, not just those in crowd investing, but even those that were actually operating, earning money, and were quite large companies. How did the company get through that period?
Probably, yes, the biggest and most impactful story was the global pandemic of COVID, which was then subsequently followed by the special military operation. A great many companies, friends who are entrepreneurs, really ended up in a very sad situation. In a sense, we were lucky. From the very beginning, we worked entirely online. Our whole operation was built on IT infrastructure. And on top of that, we were already working globally at that time. And the fact that people absolutely had to stay at home didn't in any way prevent us from working. Secondly, the fact that there were indeed difficulties in Russia was not critical, since everything continued as usual in the rest of the world. Next, what did this lead to? For example, at that time we were in the middle of active construction, and if I remember correctly, the price of metal tripled, and our building is made with a metal frame. This led to increased costs. We simply explained this to the investors and showed them the situation. The investors indeed understood this quite positively. We had originally planned for one specific scenario, but as you can clearly see, this is precisely what's happening right now. More objective facts. What viable option do we truly have here? Either we regrettably part ways, or we realistically accept the current reality and significantly increase the budget for this endeavor. That is precisely how we managed to get through it all. But yes, we were indeed greatly missing our cherished offline events that we regularly used to hold, so we made the necessary decision to switch everything entirely to an online virtual platform. So overall, we were already operating within the broader information environment, not physically on the ground where everything was strictly restricted, but rather extensively on the internet. So you could genuinely say we were quite fortunate in that particular sense as well.
You've mentioned several times that people from many different countries truly support these important projects. Could you please elaborate a little more what specific countries are actually involved and precisely how many?
Yeah, we can actually show the statistics. We have investors from about 190 countries, and we have national representatives in around 30 countries. That includes Africa, Asia, and Europe, though Europe is less now. We can also show the statistics for that. We have set up a system of national representatives, meaning there are people who regularly and actively do the work. The question is, how did they appear? At some point, that was a big question for me. We had a website in Russian, and yet Vietnam became the second largest country in terms of investment. I thought, I'll make it in time. Where are you going? It seems that people were just searching for information about the technology and translated our websites. So how did our development happen? We started in Russia, working. Then quite suddenly I just see that money starts coming in and investors are appearing in some country. And there are more and more and more of them. So accordingly, we go to that country, translate the website into their languages, appoint someone from among those same people who reached out to us and found us themselves as a representative. And they start actively working. And that's how it started for us. And the last place I personally visited was Africa. It's truly incredible. People from a completely different culture, speaking entirely different languages, and yet our idea genuinely resonated with them. I met some incredible people there. I had certain ideas about Africa, just like most of the world has certain ideas about Russia, like people here ride bears. I thought Africa was unsafe, that Africa would give European countries a run for their money. South Africa is just incredible. So, the idea at first is like a seed that gets carried somewhere by chance. It takes root there, and then we start to nurture it. And that's how we ended up in many countries around the world, and they're developing there. Our national representatives are working, expanding their activities. We're active in Latin America, Europe, Asia, and Australia, although right now we're not in Australia either. They didn't like Russia at one time.
By the way, what do you personally and truly think really allows you to unite such a large number of people from many different countries, to come together for one indeed big goal?
I think it's precisely the universality of this idea of bringing people together. You know, there are some instinctive things. When you're alone, you're weak, but together, you're stronger. I'm saying that the very idea of uniting people is awesome. Second, what is it that we unite around? Around a truly kind, positive, and ambitious goal. A creative one? Yes, a very creative one. Yes, of course, there's an element of making money involved, absolutely. And that's actually quite wonderful. I truly want to unite around something that will, in fact, make me poorer. Nonsense. Yes, to unite around something truly significant that can bring you substantial profit, yes, but the undeniable fact that it brings profit is in itself very, very interesting. I mean, it gives you an incredible sense of satisfaction that you can genuinely influence something on many different levels, that it can become the absolute best in the entire world and your whole life. I certainly had a hand in it, so yes. And I truly think that the profound universality of the idea of uniting and the striking vividness of what people unite around, it's just incredibly universal. It fits Africa, Asia, Europe, Russia, anything at all, whether it's a product or an idea. And what's remarkable about what you said is that people find it themselves and get drawn into this movement on their own. Yes, 100%. So it's not like we aired commercials on central channels and someone showed up. People find us in other languages. By the way, there's something else I want to point out. When I go to conferences, I can see that it's the image of Soviet engineers, the image of Soviet developers that stands out in the world. So when you say you're from Russia or that the project is from Russia, you get very different reactions. The very first time I was incredibly and genuinely impressed by the strong reaction of the Vietnamese people. In other words, it's clear that Vietnam absolutely loves Russia. It's people from Russia and the historical Soviet Union. At least one significant part of it certainly does. The crucial point to understand is that Russia, or more precisely the former Soviet Union, provided substantial assistance to many countries, particularly excelling from a comprehensive engineering perspective. And the image of Russia as a Soviet engineer, this Soviet technological legacy, is something people really hold on to. The second thing I notice is that it's the same in Africa. In Africa, there is a very kind, warm attitude specifically toward Russian people and toward Russian engineers in particular. They are held in especially high regard. They are very much respected, very much so.
This is precisely the positive result of many years of diligently building a strong reputation through effective cooperation between the various countries. Could you please share your valuable personal experience in investment activities, perhaps detailing some specific products or financial instruments that you personally use?
I have a close relationship with investments. I've been involved in investments for a long time. Obviously, I am an investor in all of my own projects, and wherever I organize investment attraction, I am, of course, also an investor there. In addition to that, there is a simple rule of investing. You can't put all your eggs in one basket. We have a smaller project, and we have exactly the same kinds of investments. It's a typical classic investment story. I have an investment advisor. I have a number of tools that I use. These are different companies in different countries, brokerage accounts, stocks. It's a completely standard set of various instruments for different terms, with different returns and different guarantees. But again, this doesn't take up any of my time or attention. I have a person who handles all of this. Some basic rules.
Yes.
A portion of the income, just according to the risks that be.
Yes. There's nothing supernatural about it. Sergey, what truly inspires you to do this business, to get up in the morning? What really drives you in general every day?
Well, what else truly should a man in his prime be doing? Honestly, I don't even really know. There is indeed an incredibly wonderful thing that I love to do. There are quite a few people for whom I feel a very great responsibility. I understand completely that I have children, that I truly need to provide for my beloved family, that I absolutely need to do something significant, something truly cool, something quite big and impactful, while I still possess the physical strength, while I still hold the burning desire. I think it's a completely natural and inherent process for any capable and conscientious person to try to do something genuinely good, something profoundly significant within the reasonable limits of their inherent abilities and capabilities.
I truly think it's the same for absolutely everyone. I firmly believe that if every single person had such powerful motivations, our entire world would definitely change for the much better. So, What are you ultimately striving for in the long term? What exactly would you like to achieve in the very end?
At some point, I actually wrote down my goals. I would like to create a company, an international large one, that would help launch about 100 projects like Dirigible. So, I don't specifically see myself going into aircraft manufacturing or anything like that. I actually see my mission as organizing the unification of people, searching for talents, great products, and projects. My aim is to skillfully merge the potential of these individuals with the potential of a product on a systematic basis, which would help a large number of technology companies to succeed. Some major projects that generate serious revenue provide an excellent life for the investors who supported them. This, in turn, actively encourages other investors to help these valuable projects so that this system really gets going and truly flourishes. So it creates something very bold and large, unites a great number of people from around the world, and consistently lives up to their expectations. That's the plan. So there are still 97 companies to go.
Besides the existing projects and initiatives that are currently underway, are there any specific areas or sectors within our country where you personally perceive the greatest untapped potential and the most promising prospects for significant and sustainable further development?
Well, I've already answered this question here on the podcast. It's 100% artificial intelligence. That's absolutely certain. The thing is, I don't quite fully understand yet how to properly approach it. I haven't really deeply delved into it because I've already firmly chosen my current professional direction and will definitely devote several dedicated years to it. But artificial intelligence is truly like the advent of electricity. As a groundbreaking technology, the profound emergence of AI will undoubtedly change the entire world beyond all recognition, and I think for the better, for the significant betterment of humanity. I think that right now all companies are more or less on equal footing. Everyone is just at the beginning, and this is the biggest opportunity that exists today. It's something that will truly change every single field. It will transform every field, absolutely all of them. You could talk about it endlessly. It's just that the barrier to entry there, even for something serious, is high. And both specialists and really big players are involved.
But that's what makes it so cool. Sergey, what advice would you give to potential or beginner investors and partners who are just now getting acquainted with the platform, starting to study the materials, and only beginning to immerse themselves in the activities the company is engaged in?
Well, I would advise them to really dive deep into everything that's happening with our company, not superficially, but really deeply and consciously, and only then make any decisions. Because so much has been created over the past 10 years that you can't quickly figure it all out or understand it. That's probably the main thing, to approach this seriously and thoughtfully, because it's a major phenomenon, a big movement, and a misunderstanding could simply deprive you of the opportunities that are potentially opening up before you.
Sergey, if you had the distinct opportunity to convey the essential core value of the business or the significant activity you've successfully started, in just one concise sentence or with one crucial key idea, what precisely would that be? Well, I believe that together we are truly strong. I guess that really is it. Yes, I genuinely don't think you could possibly put it any better than that. Let's wrap it up here. Thank you again for taking the time and coming to see us. Hope to see you again. Invite me to the next room over. Thank you very much. Friends, thank you for watching this particular episode. Be sure to leave your valuable comments, react, and ask any other interesting questions. Let us know what else we could talk about, and we'll probably see you very soon in our latest episodes.